Hey, everybody, and welcome back. I am still joined by Todd DeVoe, where we are going to transition our conversation to leadership. Not only leadership, but how we can better equip the emergency management profession and professional towards leadership, applying leadership, and where we actually look for and get guidance from those around us in mentorship and other areas of building in our personal growth. Todd and I both share um, a very strong conviction for leadership and in being able to be leaders ourselves, but also to mentor other leaders and give them the tools that they need in order to be great leaders themselves and help push this profession and them forward as we continue going. So, Todd, thanks again for joining me for this segment.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
So let's jump right into leadership. What advice do you have when it comes to an aspiring leader or someone who wants to jump into a leadership role, or someone who's looking for mentorship to help them to get into a leadership mindset?
Sure thing. So first, I want to I'm going to argue with you a little bit here. I don't believe there's anything such thing as called an aspiring leader. I think you're a leader that might inspire people, right? But I don't. I think my point about that is everybody has the ability to lead, right? It's something that isn't necessarily now. There's born when people say are born leader or trained leaders. Well, I think that there are people who are born more outward, right? Compared to the introvert versus extrovert, and then you have people that are more willing to take risks when it comes into things like that. Sure, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they know how to lead, right? That they're a leader necessarily, right? They
That's
might.
where aspiring comes in. Because
Okay,
aspiring
fair enough.
leadership let's have the argument. So
Well,
leadership in general is a skill, and it's a skill you have to
absolutely.
practice and you have to refine. And just deciding I want to be a leader doesn't make you a leader. You have to continually apply leadership, and that comes from someone who says I would like to step into leadership. You aspire to become a leader. It doesn't make you a leader if you just jump into a leadership role. And what
And
it does is it requires you to a continual effort to build upon your leadership skills.
yes, that's the difference there. That's the difference, because aspiring means like I'm going to someday be here, right? I don't want to say here if you can't see me at the top, right? I'm going to be the guy. And so sure, you might aspire to a position, right? But that doesn't necessarily make you a leader, right? And so what I mean by that is like the CEO of a company, he might have gotten there as the CEO. Number one, maybe he founded the company, right? Or number two, he has technical expertise in something, right? And has been a great manager or something like that. Doesn't necessarily mean that he's a leader of the company. So you can see what they have, like the locker room leaders, as they call it, or versus the person who has the position, right? Position leadership. Now, sometimes people listen to you, right? Because you have the position, right? How many times can I say position, right?
Yeah, it's
Position,
authoritative. It's an
right?
authoritative role
Uh,
that requires you to listen to somebody because of the
well,
title after the name.
title, right? Exactly. You might have the title. So you see this in the military. Somebody who becomes a corporal or a sergeant or lieutenant or whatever, they get this position and they're like, "Well, I'm in charge." Okay, you might be in charge, but it doesn't necessarily mean you inspire people to do things beyond what they have to do, right? So with leadership, though, on the other side of it, though, is the idea is like there's two things, right? Where we're talking about people who want to be in charge, right? Put themselves above the team, put themselves above those who work for them. I am the boss. I am in charge. You work for me, right? Leaders, on the other hand, put their teammates in front of them, right? Puts their employees in front of them and is there for them. As I tell the people, I'm the president of IEM Region 9, right? I tell everybody who is on my team, right, that my job is not to tell them how to do their job. My job is to open up doors and kick in windows and knock down walls for them so they can do their job properly. And my other side of my job is to catch arrows for them, right? To shield them from that negativity. Now we'll have conversations, right? If things are going bad, doesn't necessarily mean that, that we have to, you're going to walk all over it. But the deal is, I should have that conversation. If Dan works for me, I should have that conversation with Dan. If you want to have a problem, I'm going to shield you from those arrows. I'll take them, right? Because at the end of the day, it's my responsibility. I can delegate authority, but I can't delegate responsibility, right? And so as a leader, you take responsibility for your team. You take those arrows for your team, right? But at the same time, you allow the people who work for you, right, to move, grow, and become better. And that's one of the things that I try to do as a leader. We just had our Region 9 symposium, and I was pretty hands off. Now, every once in a while, I came in and said something because it was ruffling some rules, right? Outside of ruffling the rules, I said, hey, I came and said, you guys do what you got to do. Jorge Rodriguez is the guy who ran that entire thing. And I would talk to him and say, hey, it's your show. You do what you want to do. This is the way I would do it. If you want to do it another way, okay, that's fine. I'm not gonna second guess your decisions, right? Because he had the ability to do so. I know, Dan, you're on that team as well, right? So having those abilities to be able to lead people through that, and to be able for them to come to you with their problems so you can open those doors for them, that's what a leader is, right? A leader isn't I get the big hat and I get a cane or something and whack it on the table and tell people what to do. That's not leadership. That's dictatorship. Completely different, right? So that's what I'm saying. Inspiring, I suppose I get what you're saying, but at the other side of that thing is, as a leader, I continuously learn. I learn from my team all the time. I'm empathetic. I listen to them. I want to put myself in their position so I can help them out, right? And I've apologized, right? I've gotten half information and acted on it, and they're like, hey, time out, Todd. This is not all correct. And I have to go, oh, I apologize 100%. And I made a rash assumption based on half information I had, and so we fixed that. Understanding that you have to take that time and go, oh, I'm sorry, I have bad information. You're right, right? Don't be afraid to say that, because that's part of leadership. Is that that's my opinion. I can back it up with a whole bunch of research and stuff, but you see this. That's the locker room leader, all the way up to the guy who's winning Super Bowls, the leadership on the field, that people want to be with you, is another critical. They don't have to like you. They don't have to be your friend, right? When I say they don't have to like you, you don't have to go out and drink beers with your team, but they have to respect you, and they have to understand that you are there for them, and that they can trust that you will stand up for them. That's leadership to me.
I think leadership too, and this is it's more important to differentiate between, as you mentioned, the positional leadership, meaning that I have a title, I tell you what to do, you go do it, versus the influential leader, which is more of a choice for someone to decide to follow. And that's why I'm such an advocate when it comes to emergency management, because emergency managers in general, throughout the field and throughout the industry, are not in positions of authority. They are in positions where they must influence people of authority. Yeah. So we have to influence up and side to side and down below. We have to influence 360 for people to understand what it is that we do, how we do it, why it's important, why they should follow us in understanding why the directions that we're giving, the advice we're giving, or the feedback that we're giving. And it's an understanding if it's a choice that they're making to, I'm going to listen to you because you are whatever XYZ, right? You have influence over me in this XYZ. And as it's a choice that someone makes to follow. I mean, what do they say? If you think you're a leader, you're out taking a walk by yourself, you're just taking a walk. Or if you're a leader, you're by yourself, you're just taking a walk. Ultimately, yeah, you have people behind you that follow you. They choose to follow. They don't follow you because you possess a title. And that's important when it comes to emergency management. So, and you've been in emergency management longer than I have, and you've seen the industry grow just as much as I have, but you've also seen that the majority of individuals that work in this profession are in positions where they are not able to make decisions. They have to influence the others to make decisions. So how does that work?
Kelly McKinney, as about to, Kelly McKinney, who is a friend of mine, author, emergency manager, was emergency manager for OEM in New York City, right when 9/11 occurred. He's been on some of those large events, and there's two things he says about emergency management. One is put the people first, right? We're here to serve. At the end of the day, we're serving either the residents in the jurisdiction that we're in, the visitors as well. So don't take residents as being a person who just lives in the house, right? The businesses, right? Everything that's inside that jurisdiction, and also the other stakeholders and the politicians, right? But however, if we aren't bending and breaking the rules, right, in the sense of doing it properly to make sure, if only, not saying breaking the rules like spending money illegally, right? Talking about doing things that are going to help out those residents, all right, those people that need your help. Do not allow the rules to dictate whether or not you can help. That at the end of the day is terrible. So when people are like, sorry, the bureaucracy says I can't do this because it's against the rules. Well, freaking figure a way around it, right? Figure out how you're going to be able to fix that problem, right? Because they don't care. Their house has been burnt down or is gone because of the earthquake or whatever, right? They don't care if that's against the rule. They just need to know who's going to help them fix that problem, and that's what we need to be advocates for those people. Now, on the other side, for your team that's working with you, right? And even if you are a team of one, and you have your volunteers, or you're running a small shop, you need to be the first one in, last one gone, right? You need to be the first one in that door in the morning to make sure that everything is going well, and you need to greet your team as they're walking in the door for a long day of work. At the end of the day, when everybody's going home, you need to be the last one to shut those lights off, right? Or to do the turnover to the next shift that's coming on, right? It's critical, right? Because if they see you coming in late and leaving early, what are they thinking, right? That's even if you have the prerogative to come in late and go home early, that's the wrong message that you're sending to people, right? You should be the one turning those computers on and warming them up. I actually had a volunteer who lived close to my station when I was in the city of Seal Beach, and he was able to get into the station, get things set up, the EOC, because we were one of the EOCs in the box, right? And get the EOC set up and have the computers on. And it always kind of peed me off a little bit because I'm like, damn it, Wink, I don't want you to feel like I'm not here for you, but I had a 25-30 minute drive. So being in there, being the first person in and last person gone. If you can't be the first person, make sure you definitely are the last person, and that you say thank you to your team that's coming in behind you. That's another critical aspect of leadership. I think I lost Dan here for a minute, so I'm going to kind of go on. When you're looking at the idea of leadership, right, and what you need to do, right, you ought to again be sharpening your sword, right? Be sharpening your saw, as Stephen Covey says, right? Train yourself. Don't. I put it over here because I have the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People flashcards in front of me that I take a look at to see if I'm doing well. You can see that I have the book behind. Always sharpening that sword to see how you're doing well, and then find yourself a mentor as well, right? If you're going to be a mentor to others, but you should have your own mentors, and I think that's another critical step in being a good leader is understanding where you're at and who can mentor you. And Dan, when I lost you for a minute, I just continued. You're on pause, but you're on mute. There you go.
Yeah, thank you for continuing on. I had a little hiccup here, but one of the things that I am really advocating for when it comes to leadership, especially as we continue to push the profession and the professional forward, is that ultimately the change that's going to take place in emergency management and the change that's going to take place at higher levels isn't going to come from the government. It's not going to come from IAEM. It's not going to come from NEMA. It's not going to come from NEMA and IAEM. It's going to come from us as the individuals stepping up, helping to shape and influence policy, helping to shape and influence procedure, helping to shape and influence the job descriptions and the departmental builds, and it's us that are going to have to step into the leadership roles to help build this profession. And in
I,
doing so, you build yourself as a professional.
I want to
So
push
the
back on that
goal,
just a little bit,
okay,
right?
go for
IAM, NEMA, your state association, um, your alumni association. If you go to those organizations are critical into pushing the profession forward. Now, what I do agree with you, and I think this is kind of where you're going with it. It's not just the names in those organizations. Those organizations are made up of people. And Dan as one, Dan stepped up and took a leadership role in IAM Region 9, right? He is the he's the higher education chair. Um, so professional. So we have academic and professional. Um, so that's critical, right? Is to be part of that and understand that organization is only as good as the individuals that are in it. That you are part of that. If you are not a member of NEMA or IEM or both, right?
or your
You
state
need
organization.
you need yeah.
Yeah, your state organization. I mean, you should definitely be members of something that helps drive the profession forward. But I 100% agree with you. It's they absolutely are beneficial, these organizations, but ultimately it's going to be us as the individuals that work within those organizations that influence policy and help build this profession and these professionals. But you'd be surprised. I mean, you wouldn't just mean you're on the same page, but how many individuals doing this job or working in this line of work who don't belong to any type of professional membership association, even in their own state.
You know what's amazing about that is I've met some people who are like didn't even know that a state association existed,
It
that
existed.
IEM was even around, right? And I'm like, how the heck did you get a job as emergency management? Never hear of these. I mean, did you get a damn newspaper? I mean, jeepers creepers. I mean,
Yeah, it's
like
an intentional effort. I feel and it's a personal responsibility that we have to be better, to be great at what we do, how we do it, and establishing our sense of credibility. But in doing that, it takes us to look outside of our own little area to realize what's kind of resources do we have. You'd be surprised how many emergency managers and other professionals don't know about EMI or
right,
CDP or CSTI. And I'm saying a bunch of abbreviations here, but Emergency Management Institute, the Center for Domestic Preparedness,
geeks.
California Standard, yeah, TEEX, the Texas Extension Emergency Extension Services. These are great organizations that are there to provide training and professional development for the professional and the emergency manager and the first responder that people don't know about. And I think it's important that we educate people, but we also, as the individual in the position, we should be looking for that as much as we can. And that's one of the reasons why. And I'm just going to point this out there, a little bit of a self advertisement here. That's why I am transitioning from being an emergency manager to a leader in the field, but I will now serve the emergency manager. And by serving the emergency manager, all the resources and all the experience and everything that I have will now belong to them. I will able to promote and advertise and market the best of emergency management based on the 15 years of experience that I have. And what are you on, 25 years now of experience?
Yeah,
25 years
yeah.
experience in emergency management, emergency response. And that experience is extremely valuable to those out there right now doing the job or coming into the job, that they don't necessarily know that these resources exist. So I'm going to be the resource. And I know, Todd, you want to be the resource with the Emergency Management Network. Be the resource for these things and put the stuff out there and feed the emergency manager. We are now going to be of service to them. And that's usually, this is what makes us leaders in the field, makes us valuable to each other, is that we are resources to each other. But we're going to be a resource to the emergency manager.
I want to ask you a question because you got me involved in this. So you reached out to me, I don't know, a couple years ago now, and asked me if I wanted to be on the special interest working group, right? When it came to
Yeah.
ethics, right? The SIG. And it's one of those things like he was talking to me about this thing, and I'm like, I don't know anything about it. And he explained to me, I'm like, absolutely, I'd like to be involved with that. How did you get involved with that? And like, tell everybody like why they should be involved in these research organizations or
Well,
research
these
groups.
things, I mean, I got involved because FEMA holds a yearly uh, um, emergency management higher education conference at EMI. And so I was at the conference and doing what I do and networking and meeting people. I started a conversation with someone, and they mentioned that they were going to go. They were leading this panel of this for the SIG ethics, and I said I would definitely be interested in doing that. And so they invited me in because I showed the interest. And ultimately, what it is, so everybody can have a little bit of understanding, it's a FEMA special interest group with the purpose of developing a code of ethics for the emergency management profession. Ultimately, the emergency management profession does not have a code of ethics.
Okay.
IAEM has a code of ethics for IAEM members. NEMA has a code of ethics for NEMA members. If you are a member of an association, you potentially have a code of ethics that aligns with that membership. But in general, the profession does not have one. So we are working to establish a code of ethics for the profession, and we've done that. And we've put that out there for call to collaborate and call to contribute to give their feedback. And it's been a 4-year long process. And Todd, you've been involved in about the last 2 of that, right?
Yeah.
So it's a long process. It's going to be a continuing process. We're not expecting it to be overnight. As I said, just 4 years. But the reason why that I jumped in is I felt how important it was that the profession continues to move forward. We keep hearing that emergency management in general is in its infancy. Well, it's 50 years old. We're looking at Baby Yoda here. Come on. At this point in time, we need to start getting outside of that infancy stage and start crawling and walking and stumbling around a little bit more and growing in what it is that we do, how we do it, why it's important, and who does it. And that's why I think it's so important. And that's why I think it's important that I'm doing this with like the podcasting and the summits and the conferences and the networking and the newsletters that you do and the webinars that you do. And so that's why it's important. That's why I want to be involved, because somebody's got to do it. And I'm not going to wait for somebody else to step up. It's going to be us.
Right.
And we're going to do it right. And we're going to do it with the intent to serve the emergency management profession.
And that goes right back into the conversation, right? And the reason why I'm asked that question is because when we talk about leadership, it's not just telling people what to do. It's doing stuff. Write a book, right?
Leading by example.
Right. I put write a book, right? It's not a book. Write white papers. Do research. Lead by example. Get involved. Become a part of IAEM. Not just a member, right? Which is great, but become part. Go on one of the caucuses or one of the commissions and do that work and really push where we can be as a profession, right? Because without you as an individual member doing this work, it's just an organization, just a name, right? And it's great to be able to walk into the room and see thousands of emergency managers at the IEM conference really making a difference and doing some great stuff. And I'm not joking, it's thousands, right? You're not alone.
At IEM, there are thousands of people. If you go to IEM in general, I'm a proponent of IEM, which is the International Association of Emergency Managers. I belong to IEM as a member. I sit on committees and other things. I'm also a proponent of FEMA and EMI and CDP. And there's so many different organizations you can belong to, different ways you can get involved. But the worst thing you can do is to just be. The worst thing you can do to any profession, any industry, just being you, is to just be. Make the intentional effort to go out and be better and to make others better. And by doing that, you'll be of service. And by being of service is the best thing you can do for yourself. And that's one of the reasons why I do what I do, is that I want to be of service to others. And I know, Todd, you feel the same way. Being of service to others really is the most beneficial thing you can do for yourself. It does something to you. It does something for you. It does something for your mind. It does something for your heart. It does something for your body to be able to serve someone else. And you'd be surprised at how often an individual will do more for someone else than they will for themselves. So when you switch your line of thinking to being of service to someone else, you open up a whole new world.
Absolutely. That's what leadership truly is. Leadership, if you could actually take one way of saying it, leadership is service. It isn't being the boss. It's learning to serve others.
Just taking care of others, take care of those that have been put in your charge, taking care of those who voluntarily place themselves in your charge. It's the care and service to others.
Absolutely.
Well, Todd, we're rounding out here. I know it's been a long, long conversation, but it's a great conversation. It's one we'll continue to have over and over and over again as we continue to grow ourselves. Our arguments, our views, our application will change. But that's what leadership is as well. It's what we are as individuals. We continue to grow. We continue to excel at what we do, and we change it and we apply it and we do it all over again. So I just really express the thanks that I have for you taking the time to come on here and talk to me, be a part of this with me, and all the support you've given me over the last few years too. This is a great time for me to just publicly say thank you. You brought me in to EM Weekly when it was back when you were hosting that, and that was your baby, and you brought me in without hesitation to be a part of that with you, and you've supported me ever since, and I truly appreciate that. And I can truly say I wouldn't be where I am today without you helping pull me in that direction. So thank you.
It's my pleasure, Dan. I do appreciate it.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Thanks for listening. Be sure to comment, to reach out to us, to like, to share. That is very important to help spread the word. But if you have any desire at all, DM me, LinkedIn, Instagram, reach out to me, and I would love to have a conversation. And even potentially, if you're interested in becoming a guest, reach out to me. I'll talk to you later. My name is Dan Scott. We'll talk soon.
See you in Savannah.
Savannah, Georgia. Oh, I don't want to shut the